we're still talking about how to divide a whole number by a fraction. And we're going to look at the same problem that we had, which was 2 divided by 2/3. You're going to turn the whole number into a fraction by setting your denominator as 1. Notice that 2 is now 2 over 1. Keep your division sign, keep your 2/3 because we're trying to work with two fractions. And that's the thing about dividing fractions. You want to make sure that you're always dividing two fractions. In the keep, change, flip method, you want to make sure that you have two fractions that you're working with. So always, always, always make sure that you have two fractions that you're working with. Even if you see a mixed number or you see a whole number, change it into some kind of fraction, whether it's improper, which in this case it is improper, or if it's a regular fraction, always change it into two fractions so that you can divide. Those two fractions, notice that your denominators are different, so you are going to change your fractions into equivalent fractions. We already know what to do when we have two denominators that are different and we need to change it to equivalent fractions. Just in case you forget, what you need to do is find your LCD of your denominators, which are 1 and 3, by writing the multiples of them. So you have 1, 2, 3, and then you have 3. You can even go to 6, but we want to find the least common denominator or the least common multiple. The least is 3. So what you're going to do is multiply 1 by 3. And remember the rule, whatever you do to your denominator, you have to do it to your numerator. And whatever you do to your numerator, make sure that you do it to your denominator. Now we can multiply because, again, we're trying to change our fractions to equivalent fractions. 2/3 or 2 times 3 is equal to 6, and 1 times 3 is equal to 3. Now we're going to go to our next fraction. We already know that our denominator is equal to 3. And then you can ask yourself, how many times did you add 3 over here? You added it 1 time. 2/3 is the same thing as 2/3. And now we are going to ignore our denominators because our denominators are the same. And remember, we're ignoring it because if you were to rewrite it, it would be 6/2 divided by 3 over 3, or 3/3. 3/3 is the same thing as 1 whole because 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. And we already know that any number that has 1 in the denominator is the number that's in the numerator. That's why we would ignore them. So you can ignore it by either writing the X or a line or however you want to ignore them. Ignore your denominators. And now you are going to focus on your numerators. You can divide your numerators, which are 6 and 2. And you can write that as a fraction by reading it from left to right. Notice that the number in your left, that's your numerator, even though it's your numerator, but we're writing it as a fraction. And when you write as a fraction, you need to have a numerator as well as you need to have a denominator. So the 6 that's on your left will be your numerator, and the 2, which is on your right, that is going to be your denominator. Rewrite it. You have 6/2, and we already know that 6/2 is the same thing as 3. I know this lesson was a mouthful. I also know that it was a lot to take in. So what I want you to do is go back watch the video again, solve the problem on your own, both ways, with your bar model as well as without the bar model, or you can try the keep change flip. Remember, the keep change flip is you keep the denominator or the fraction that's on the left, you change your sign, and you flip the fraction that is on the right. So I don't have enough space, so let's write it over here. Keep the fraction on your left, change the sign, and you are going to flip the fraction on the right, which is to write the reciprocal of your fraction. So keep the fraction on the left. In this case, it was 2/1. The sign was the division sign. Change it to a multiplication sign, and then you are going to flip the fraction that's on the left, and that will be 3/2. Oops, that should be 2. And now you can see that now you can multiply. Division is the inverse of multiplication. All right, see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.